listening to The Review on the OSG Sports Podcasting Network.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of The Review. It's the Online Sports Guys college football podcast featuring us, the Online Sports Guys. And no, unlike last week, we don't have a full house, but we do have at least three of us here to talk about probably one of the more interesting weeks of the college football season in terms of who played, results, and how things are kind of starting to play themselves out here as we start the race for the college football playoff here in the beginning of November.
We're the three best hosts that anyone could have, and we'll never, 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 ever leave each other. There you go.
We'll start off talking about your top 25 games because there was some interesting action there. However, the Ohio State-Penn State game was not one of them. Ohio State with a win 38-14. Just I'm going to call him Just Saying because it sounds so much better. Penn State's quarterback throws for 316, 4 touchdowns. Should also add that he was 20 for 23. Ohio State cruised in a game that at the beginning of the season, on paper, looked like it was going to be a major battle of the Titans. In week number 10, it wasn't so much.
What's interesting to watch about Ohio State is that not only are they tough to score on, but they can hit you with these lightning strike touchdowns at any point because their receivers are so good that you may think you're in the game, and all of a sudden you're down 14, and you don't even know what happened.
And outside
this game, at the beginning of the year, this game, we were sitting there looking at it and going, okay, we'll focus on this one. But because of Sly mentions the lightning fast way things move. They even moves just as fast off the field, considering all of the coaches and the short-term memory and what have you done for me lately and all this kind of stuff. And you're now catching teams that are on the back end of all of this movement that they've had with coaches, and they're still trying to find each other. And it ends up being an easy win as opposed to the tough game that you would have anticipated early on.
Yeah, and that theory was applied to a couple of games on the board this week, which we'll get to here in just a second. Number 2, Indiana, they traveled to Maryland, which is probably...
Didn't Maryland have a 3-0 lead in this game?
They did. And then it proceeded to get outscored 55-7.
Yeah.
Maryland, probably one of college football's best teams in September. Also one of college football's worst teams in October and November. Not much really you can say in this game other than Indiana did what they've been doing to everybody all season. They smoked them.
And Mike Loxley proves once again why he is a great number 2 and not a great number 1.
That could be interpreted several different ways, none of which we're going to get into here.
Oh, come on.
Moving on down the list, the number 5 Georgia Bulldogs took on Florida in the annual world's largest cocktail party. I'll go ahead and say it, even though they don't say it anymore.
Yeah, it's the WLOCP. There's nothing wrong with that.
And we talked a minute ago about teams with interim coaches and how they performed for said interim coaches. I will give Florida credit for this. They played hard under Billy Gonzalez.
I give them no credit.
The effort was there. But Georgia did what Georgia's done all season long, and that's crawl back from being behind, and they get the win 24-20. Not much you can really say there other than at some point in time that trailing at halftime thing is going to come back and bite Georgia in the ass.
But what we did see is that Florida athletically can sort of the few teams that can just stand up to Georgia. They dominated most of the second half too, but in the end, I think last week, the week before, talking about Georgia's organizational savvy, they just seem to have a lot of ways that they can wind up winning a game. Showed another one here.
When there was when it was 20-17, the boss and I were wandering around various tailgates at the game of the week, and I turned to her, and she'll back me up on this. I said that's got 24-20 written all over it, because you just know that the way that Georgia operates, and you look at point spreads and things like that, much like shingles, Kirby Smart doesn't care about them. What he will do is he will find ways to win games with the personnel that he has. If at the end of the day he has scored one more point than the other guy, 2, 3, 4, doesn't matter. If it's a come from behind win, fine. If you're down at the half, fine. You're going to do what you do. You win the game at the end. That is all at the end of the day that matters. Georgia did that one more time, and it doesn't matter about the competition, the quality of the competition, the context of the competition. Most of the time, they always find that way to get it done, to get the Duke at the end of 60 minutes.
If Florida they got cute and tried to get that 4th and 1 in the fourth quarter instead of kicking the field goal, and it totally changed the vibe of for the rest of the game.
Yeah, Georgia did just enough to get the win. Side note here, probably some people with some money riding on that game that were a little bit ticked off when Gunnar Stockton took the knee right there at the very end, just a yard short of the goal line, but it did what it provided the desired effect. It got Georgia the win, ran out the clock, game over.
Mm-hmm. As we said, much like shingles, Kirby doesn't care. You run clock, you get out the door, you're done.
I believe Al Davis said it once, just win, baby.
Mm-hmm. That is true. And how many times has he done that recently through his son, Mark? Not many.
But again, a separate conversation. Number 7, Ole Miss, they hosted South Carolina in a game that could have been a trap game for Ole Miss, but it wasn't. Ole Miss rolls 30-14. They took care of business there. Kyron Lacey, 24 carries, 167 yards, and a touchdown for the Rebels. Number 8, Georgia Tech, they fall from the ranks of the undefeated. This wasn't as big of a surprise to me as it probably should have been, but North Carolina State dropped 48 points on that. They win 48-36. Haynes King for Georgia Tech threw for 408 yards and a couple of touchdowns, but it was not nearly enough as the Georgia Tech defense really couldn't stop NC State all day long.
You never know when the Tigers. Yeah, go ahead, John.
That's just so I'll toss to you real quick. There's always that one game a year where Dave Doran does something that is un-Dave Doran-like. Translation: win in a key game. Traditionally, it happens in a contract year where everybody's sitting there and the wolves are at the door and the hounds are barking. Is Dave Doran going to be renewed as head coach at NC State? And there's always that win that propels them to that 8-4 year. They win the bowl game. It's 9-4. Doran saying, I don't know. And then he gets the AD at NC State, kind of runs to the front door of the Dave Doran hacienda, and it's the
Here, would you like a contract extension?
basically, yeah, you knock on the door and it's like, oh, we don't want to lose you, Dave, but he's already in a big contract. So I don't know. I think this was the Dave Doran game that we have every year. It's just that there wasn't a contract that was attached to it, a contract extension attached to it. So I don't know what to think about this one, Sly. To me, it was the Dave Doran game of the year.
Yep. Right on there. You never know when the clunker is going to come in. Now Georgia Tech is an interesting spot with a lot of one-loss teams in the ACC and Georgia looming at the end. So all of a sudden, there's a small margin for error for Georgia Tech if they're going to make the playoff.
Yeah, the ACC kind of a jumbled mess. I'll skip over for a second Vanderbilt, Texas, which we'll come right back to. What the team many thought would run away with the ACC beginning of the season, the Miami Hurricanes traveled out to Texas to take on SMU. SMU gets the win in overtime, 26-20. Pretty much an all-points failure by the Hurricanes at the end of the game, including Carson Beck throwing an interception in overtime, SMU cashing that in for the win. The Hurricanes look great winning their first 6 games, but now lost the last 2. Oops.
Here's my Salvador Dali painting impression.
Yeah, traveling to
Always.
Dallas for an 11 a.m. game is again, if you're not ready to go, you can get bitten. And they certainly did.
Yeah, so
Darn the luck, it just so happened to occur to the University of Coral Gables, those low down dirty cheaters, and couldn't have happened to a better bunch.
Mario Cristobal quickly getting the reputation as
Mr. September.
yes, um, looks great, recruits great, gets a lot of players to come there, and then underachieves.
Price is Right loser horn inserted here.
Yeah,
Ye-
Katie was saying last night, John, that how happy you would be that the low down dirty cheaters in the state of Florida, that opposite Florida State, both had crippling losses yesterday.
Yeah, my day was pretty much complete after the WLOCP and what happened with the noon kick in Dallas at Gerald R. Ford. So yeah, it was a fun day when there was daylight.
Speaking of daylight games, number 9 Vanderbilt traveled to Austin, Texas to take on the Texas Longhorns. The game was not particularly close for 3 quarters, and then all of a sudden, Vandy woke up, got the spark. Diego Pavia started doing Diego Pavia things. They rallied, but came up just a little bit short, 34-31. Guys, I don't know if you saw it. Vanderbilt, after a late touchdown, tries an onside kick. Texas bobbles the ball. It squirts free. 2 Vanderbilt players have a chance to dive on it and knock the ball out of bounds. Texas has the ball game over.
I mean, would you say that this, at least for 3 quarters, this is the best Texas has looked
Oh, God,
all
yes.
year? I mean, they
And
after 2 horrible performances, even though they won the past 2 weeks, and they just jumped Vanderbilt and put them in such a hole that even in spite of a great rally, they just couldn't get all the way back.
I mean, Sly, think about the sentence you just said. Texas, this is the best Texas has looked all year beat against Vanderbilt. I tried to time it to where Phil wouldn't have a spit take when I said this. If you look at the stats after 60 minutes, this game was about as even across the board as possible. 5 yards separating both teams in total offense. The time of possession, I think, was like a minute 40 to one side over the other, over a full 60 minutes. One team, I think, had 9 penalties. The other had 8. There were no turnovers by either team in this game. And the fact that we are having a conversation where we are talking about how good a Texas team was against Vanderbilt,
Who is also a
where
good team.
Right. But just the fact that these are the words, it's I feel like Chris Tucker. Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth? Literally, that's where we are right now, where the upside down cake that is the Southeastern Conference, where you're having these conversations where you're being compared to a Vanderbilt team, as opposed to comparing yourself to a Texas team. It is one of the most odd feelings I think I've ever had, where you're sitting there and the rocks on the shoreline as the waves are coming are Vanderbilt. It's not like, we're talking about other teams, but yes, you're comparing yourself to Vanderbilt now. And I think that
Well,
speaks a lot to professional student Diego Pavia and what Clark Lee and his staff have been able to build. But the mere fact that we are having this discussion about Vanderbilt is the odd duck in all of this. So, I mean, I can't send enough kudos and huzzas to Nashville for what they've been able to do over the last handful of years. But the fact that we're talking about Texas being an underdog at home to Vandy, at DKR, to Vandy, and squeaking by in a win, holding on against Vandy. I'm sorry, I'm still not all that sold. It's like, okay, Arch had a great game. Woo, congratulations. Can you string them together, and can you, lead your team to insert promised land here? But the fact that we are having this conversation about Vandy,
welcome to the New
is
World Order.
this is what I'm saying.
It is the
Crazy.
universe in which we now live in college football.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's got a
Yes.
chance if they know how to play the NIL portal game.
And there are some teams in the SEC that do not. Just saying.
Yeah, it's kind of where
We'll
we
get
are
there.
right now.
We'll get there. We'll get to that.
Some more top 25 action. Notre Dame with an easy win over Boston College, 25-10. Boston College drops to 1-8 under Bill O'Brien, and they look really bad. Texas Tech moves to 8-1. They get the 43-20 win over what was a surging Kansas State team up until this game.
Don't play in Dublin. That's the lesson.
Yeah. The BYU the game next week, which we'll get to it probably in the second half of the show, is the one that's really interesting.
Oklahoma travels to Neyland Stadium. Brett Venables and company gets the win over Tennessee, 33-27. I'm not sure exactly what to make of this game because it was two teams that weren't really a great. Hang on a second. We have a FedEx delivery at the house, and the dogs are going crazy.
Musical interlude inserted here.
Play dogs,
go,
but
just
Floyd.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, go ahead and go.
Did what they had to do to get the win. I'm quite honestly a little bit surprised here. I expected Tennessee to get the win. Joey Aguilar,
I did too.
34 or 29 for 45, 393, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. But Oklahoma did just enough to win.
I guess after getting shredded by Ole Miss the week before,
I'm like, okay, the game. If you had two teams in the top 20, they were just kind of there. Yeah, it's like they're the ones sitting on the sofa during fraternity pledge week. Here's Jugdish and here's Flounder, and they're literally they're the ones that are just kind of sitting on the sofa. It's like you go right over here. Yeah, Eric Stratton, Rush Chairman, is taking you over to the sofa to go hang out with these guys. That's kind of the way I looked at Oklahoma and Tennessee yesterday. Just go sit on the sofa. We'll get back to
you. Your leader right now in the House in the ACC, I should say, the Virginia Cavaliers, they travel to the West Coast, take on Cal, and walk away with a 31-21 win. Virginia 8-1 overall, 5-0 in the ACC. Looks like they're heading to the championship game right now in the anything can happen conference.
I watched some of that in the second half, even though Cal made it close. It's just every time Virginia needed to do something, they're better at running the ball. They got first downs. Everything they needed to do, they were able to do. So
yeah,
there's a lot about them.
Where's Ralph Friedgen and George Welsh when you need them?
Ralph Friedgen is at the Haas's Steakhouse, I believe, in somewhere in Pennsylvania at the buffet.
Yes.
Yeah, this is gonna sound morbid, but I believe both of them might be found in cemeteries right now. Speaking of ACC football, Louisville.
I thought you were going to say, speaking of cemeteries, and you're going to talk about what happened at Auburn.
Oof.
Yeah, we're getting there.
Okay.
Louisville with an easy win over Virginia Tech, 28-16. A little bit of a surprise in the Big 12 is Cincinnati travels to Utah. The Utes just laid this smackdown on the Bearcats, 45-14. Utah with a win.
Not that close. Not that close. Not that good. And it was shocking. It literally was. That was the last game that was on the board for me on Saturday night, and it was just not that good. It was not that good, and literally, it wasn't just taking out the whooping stick. It was like taking out the whole grouping of the bats. I mean, that's what it was. It's like not just grabbing Wonder Boy out of the stacks. You were taking the whole group of bats and you're swinging them there in the on deck circle, and it was more than just a whooping stick.
Should mention here, Houston ranked number 22 going into the week. They go down in flames. West Virginia gets their first Big 12 win of the season in that one, 45-35.
Where'd this first quarter offense come from WBGV? That was my big question. What are you doing scoring in the first? What are you doing scoring in the first quarter like this? Who are you, and what have you done with West by God, Virginia?
Remember last year, all those weeks where we talked about the teams that were maybe between, in the teens and low 20s who might be vying for a playoff spot, who have a mysterious loss. This
Hmm.
was the one for Houston to,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Willie Chris
Uh,
is not a happy man.
Big win for USC in the Big Ten. They took down Nebraska in Lincoln, 21-17.
Well,
Again,
when Dylan Raiola was injured, I think that pretty much took all the starch out of the Nebraska offense. So by default, I think USC ended up getting more points.
here's a game that I want to discuss at least a little bit.
Sure.
Duke and Clemson. I, how do you describe a game that ended up 46-45 with
Hmm.
Duke scoring late, getting a 2-point conversion for the win, in a game where Dabo Swinney pretty much started going off and yelling at just about everybody on the field, including his own players?
Yeah.
Things have gone off the rails. And Duke finally played a game where they didn't turn it over multiple times when they had chances to score. Uh, hey, I mean, you talked about earlier about programs not uh, in this new world order not living up to what they should, and Clemson is in, as we talked about last week, in a real mess right now as a
Hmm.
result.
3-5, and the buyout is $60 million.
Yeah, they
Top
got a
five. I mean, that is top five in college football. And I think there was a pre-game that what may not necessarily been tied to this particular week, but uh, Dabo said in one of his pre-week press conferences, if you're tired of me, go ahead and fire me. And so at 3-5, that might be tempting, but where are you going to come up with 60 million? That's the big question.
Yeah, a little soul searching going to have to be done out there in Clemson, South Carolina. I think Dabo finishes out the year, but boy, they got a decision to make once the season ends. We're going to go move on down the list. Wanted to mention this game only because I watched a little bit of it and it was pretty exciting, quite honestly. North Texas takes down Navy, previously undefeated Navy, I should say,
Yeah.
31-17. North Texas now 8-1, 4-1 in the American. Um, this was a fun game to watch.
Hmm.
Both teams moving the ball up and down the field on each other. Blake Horvath just all over the place for Navy. North Texas, kind of a little bit more of a team effort there, but these guys are fun to watch, and I hope to see North Texas play in the American Championship game because that would be kind of fun. That's not a team that you would expect to be playing for a conference title at that level.
That's a fun league in general. I would
Hmm.
Memphis, North Texas, Navy, Tulane. I mean that's like the basketball equivalent of the Mountain West or one of the Colonial. One of these leagues are just every game seems to be good. The teams are good, even though they're not blue bloods.
And
We were fortunate enough to have Dave Barnett, the play-by-play voice of North Texas, on in the midweek. And it was a great education on Drew Mestemaker and on Caleb Hawkins and on North Texas in general. Remember the story about Mestemaker? Because of portaling and just transfers and opting out and things like that, North Texas had a bowl game last year. And a lot of players opted out for UNT. Mestemaker, I think, was the fourth quarterback on the list. And because everyone else had either opted out or what have you, Mestemaker got the start in the bowl game. He had not started a football game since his ninth grade year in high school. And so Mestemaker comes in, gets the win in the bowl game, and he's a redshirt freshman this year. And he has been insane numerically. I think he's completing about 70% of his passes, through for over 600 last week before coming into the Navy game. And I think that if you're looking for that hot coach come next season, if you're in your hiring cycle, I think that you're probably going to look no further than North Texas if you're looking for that hot coach and the big offensive staff that scores a lot of points. Is very exciting. Or if you're not going to look for the coach, then you might be looking at Drew Mestemaker and sitting there saying, hey, Drew, here's 7 figures. And you wonder if North Texas can match that and that offense that's there right now. I mean, Caleb Hawkins came out of the state of Oklahoma. And so how Caleb Hawkins escaped both Norman and Stillwater and made it to Denton to be the bell cow in this offense. I mean, he had 4 touchdowns before you could blink yesterday. 33 for 197 and 4. That was what Caleb Hawkins did. They got out to the big lead at halftime, and Navy was trying to come back, and they eventually did, getting it to a 1-possession game and so on. But I think that if you, Sly, as you mentioned about North Texas, I think that if you look at that, there's going to be a lot of folks who are going to be staring at Denton, Texas in the offseason, either for coaches, players, or both, to try and help themselves out in 2026. But yeah, to your point, it was a great game. It was an exciting game. It was a sellout crowd in Denton, Texas. And so those are the kind of games I think that we like to gravitate toward. It was our game of the week last week. So we know what we're talking about here. So it's like, just listen to us. We know what we're talking about. So it was an exciting game and a great calling card for the American with what you can get. And I think that if anyone was shocked by this air raid offense that they have at North Texas, don't be, because it takes what we know about air raid from Leach, Mummy, and Holgerson, adds a power running game component to it, and it is very, very dangerous. They're going to be a fun watch.
Yeah. Look for Eric Morris's name to start surfacing in the coaching search carousel, which is going to be up at full speed here very, very soon, because I think one of the jobs that may be open is the last game that we're going to talk about in this first half of the show, and it's the game that John attended yesterday afternoon. Unfortunately for him, Kentucky gets the win over Auburn 10-3 in what arguably could be one of the worst games played in the college football season. And I guess the question here is Hugh Freeze going to be the guy that we jinx this week for getting fired?
Should be. He should be. He absolutely should be. It was an awful display of play calling. And it was, you put players in positions to fail. You know how when you're a coach or a coordinator, you want to put your athletes in positions to succeed? The opposite happened at Auburn. You had an offensive line that seemed to be herding cats at points when it was trying to figure out protection. I'm serious. And this is not, I don't mean this to be a slam on the offensive line. What you had was, you have in Ashton Daniels a quarterback that is a pocket passer. He is pass first, scramble second, tuck and run third. When you have that compared to Jackson Arnold, who literally is, maybe I'll tuck and run first, maybe I'll pass if somebody is open, and Fran Tarkenton comes to mind when it comes to, okay, I'm going to tuck and run and go or pass or whatever.
Only not nearly as good.
No, yeah, but it's just the same kind of a mindset. It's like, okay, my first option isn't there. I'm going to tuck and run, and then he's off. And so the line, the responsibilities for the line dissipate over time when it comes to having Jackson Arnold at quarterback. The line with Ashton Daniels at quarterback has to pass protect. And Kentucky figured out if they bring 6, it was going to be a problem for the offensive line and for the running backs to try and protect Ashton Daniels. It just got to the point where in the fourth quarter, it was jailbreak. They were sending everybody. I mean, it was zero coverage, and it was forget it. And Ashton Daniels had no time to throw to a receiver. Cam Coleman, they had a lot of trust, Kentucky did, on their defense, on their corners, to go man coverage when they sent the house, and they did that a lot when they were up 7. But you gave Ashton Daniels nothing to work with from a coordinator standpoint, from a play calling standpoint. The defense is decent. I would give them that. But Kentucky's offense still has a lot of work to do with a redshirt freshman at quarterback. The offense is awful. The play calling is awful. And the guy making the play calls is the guy who has the post-game press conference who says, I think we're real close. Just be patient.
Real close to what?
That's the question. That's the big question. And so to answer everyone's question this week, the buyout number is 15.4. I think what you do is you pick up the phone to Jimmy Rain and you sit there and go, Jimmy Rain, we'd like for you to cut a check. And then the first phone call that you make is to Eric Morris and that staff at North Texas. It was an awful display. It set football back to the days of black and white TV and home run derby on the DeMont network. That's how bad it was. You had more punting yards in the first half by Auburn than you did total offense from both teams in the first half.
Yeah, I will point out that what is it? Kentucky had 240 yards of total offense, and Auburn had 241 yards of total offense.
Yeah, it was an even game. It was an even game, no question.
Both teams bad.
2, 3, 4. Yeah. Yeah, it was a horrendous display of college football. And when the student body after the game is chanting "Fire Hugh, Fire Hugh."
They stuck around for the end of that?
Yeah, they did. They swagged the student body did. The fraternities and sororities that came in their blue blazers and khaki pants, they were gone after halftime. You look, I don't know if for those of you that might have been watching on the SEC network. And by the way, I'd like to thank both of these teams that had a 7:45 start and had us out of the building in 2 hours and 45 minutes. I mean, the game was flying, and we thank them for that. but the student body itself that swag surfs in the fourth quarter, they stayed. The sororities and fraternities, they in the end zone that you probably didn't see on SEC network, they were out the door at halftime. The student body stayed, and they chanted "Fire Hugh" when the game was over. I think that you've got to keep an eye on the head coach. I think you have to keep an eye on the athletic director, John Cohen. This could be, if you know what's good for you, a purge in the athletic department at Auburn University.
Yeah, and then that would be how many purges and how many years there?
What was the number? Okay, so Hugh Freeze, here's a number for you: 2-10 at home against Power 5 opponents. You are well below 500 in the last 5 or 6 years in the SEC. Yeah, whatever. And you're talking about Brian Harsin and you're talking about Hugh Freeze. We know how successful those two were at Auburn University. We spent entirely too much time on a game that was awful.
Yep. I think you're looking at a team right now that could very well end up not winning 6 games because
no, they won't. They're gonna have to steal one.
They've got 3 games left, one at Vanderbilt, one where they host Mercer, and they might actually have a chance to win that game, though I wouldn't bet on it.
Mercer's top 15 in that. Mercer is top 15 in the FCS. That was our other interview in the X, by the way, with Frank Malloy, the play-by-play on ESPN Plus for Mercer. So
and they finish 15 up with the Iron Bowl. That's 2 losses for probably and possibly 3.
Yeah. 5-7.
So does our money go on Hugh Freeze as being that next guy taking the vacation?
Should be. Absolutely should be. Should be. No, it should have been weeks ago, but this was the indictment of all of it.
All right, guys. That is the weekend of action. Lots of
W-E-A-K. You're not wrong. The W-E-A-K. The weekend.
Lots of it here to talk about. When we come back in the second half of the show, we're going to talk a little bit about the upcoming week in college football as we get into the first week of the college football playoff rankings, plus everybody's favorite segment, the early version of College Football on a Budget, where we tell you where you can go see some great college football action for roughly the cost of a soft drink. All that more when we return for the second half of the review. You are listening to the review on the OSG Sports Podcasting Network.
Since Marty's not here, please like and subscribe.
Thanks for sticking around. You've made it to the second half of the show. Guys, we talked in the first half about some good, some bad, and some really, really ugly college football.
Yeah.
We're moving through the month of November. By the time we get to this coming weekend's matchups, we're going to know who's kind of in the lead or jockeying for a position in the world of college football playoff and who's just trying to make themselves bowl eligible. And we got a full week of games. Got a little MAC action on Tuesday. Miami, Ohio, and Ohio University being the battle of smaller Ohio FCS schools.
Get in price at Peden Stadium, $6.
Yep, was going to get to that when we do college football on the budget. Want to talk briefly about a rivalry game on Thursday night, and that's my Georgia Southern Eagles
Ooh.
traveling to Boone, North Carolina to take on
Ooh.
Appalachian State. Both teams struggling a little bit this year, but this is one of the more intense rivalries in really in college football. More, if you don't know about it, I suggest you check it out. This is not clean old-fashioned hate. This is just hate.
Hate. It's hate.
And it's dates back to both teams being in the football championship subdivision,
Mm-hmm.
where both of them
Just go ahead and say one double A. It's all right.
were perennial contenders for that title. Both teams have had some success moving up to the big boy level, but this year not so much. That game is 7:30 kickoff up in Boone on ESPN2. If I'm home, I
Ooh.
might try to find some time to watch that one.
I think in Boone and in Pullman, Washington, um, all games are in the snow. I believe this one will probably at night it'll be snowing there as well.
Prerequisite, yes.
Yeah.
And if you have never been to Kid Brewer, obviously the get-in doesn't fit football on a budget. But if you've been to Kid Brewer and you've been there when the leaves change in Boone, it's another one of those gorgeous environments in all of college football. So recommended later in the year as the leaves turn color.
Despite the fact that I'm required to hate them, yes, it is a beautiful part of the world worth a visit.
Mm-hmm.
We move on to Saturday, where we've got a few games that still have times to be determined as of this recording. One of the more interesting ones to me here, Oregon traveling to Iowa. Some Big Ten action. Oregon, number 6 right now, looking pretty good for a college football playoff berth, even if they don't make it to the Big Ten championship game. But really, they haven't played anybody this year, and this might be their first real test.
I think the time of the game in this one will determine a lot of what happens. If it's at noon, that's a problem for Oregon. If it's later
Yes.
in the day, I think they have a much better chance of putting on a better showing. But Iowa always has tricks up their sleeves. So Lord knows what defensive or special teams touchdown is on the horizon. You know, in that game, Oregon should win, but you never know at that place.
Yeah. In years past, you had Hayden Fry who would paint the visitors' locker room pink for stuff like that at Kinnick. By the way, get-in price is 153. It's probably only going to go higher as the week goes along. But yeah, Oregon should win the game. But as we're TBD and Iowa is sometimes a place where offense goes to die. It will be one of those clashes of styles, and I am intrigued. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, that was a good way to put it because I was going to say the same thing about Iowa being a place where they suck the life out of opposing teams' offenses. I like Oregon in this game, but it's going to be a close one. Moving on to your 12 o'clock kickoffs, Georgia traveling to Davis Wade Stadium in beautiful Stark Vegas to
Clanger.
take on Mississippi State. Georgia, I think, should win this game, but I think the formula for them is going to continue. They're going to struggle a little bit before pulling away late. Mississippi State is not a pushover.
Agreed.
7.5 right now.
And then we get to probably the best game of the day. And not a game that you would think would be the best game of the day, but nevertheless, it is. A noon kickoff on ABC. BYU traveling to Lubbock, Texas to take on Texas Tech. Number 10 versus number 13, at least this far out. Those rankings probably will be a little higher for both teams by the time they kick the ball off.
Did you see the get-in price for this one?
Yes, I did. $456, which
And
is
people will
not
pay
cheap.
it.
And as hard as it is to get to Lubbock, Texas, if you want to go, you're going to be spending some money.
And people won't care.
And if you're going to spend a lot of
Take
money,
the over.
yes.
Take the over in this one. That's the first thing I'll say.
Both teams have been very, very good this year. I don't know if either one of them is a national title contender. Texas Tech spent a ton of money in portaling this year. BYU is BYU. They're usually pretty good. Sly
What a
Fox,
great way to start start the weekend. Start the Saturday. I mean, that's
Mhm.
the game of the year in the Big 12.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And I think this might be the game of the week for pretty much everything we've got going on. Because as you go down the game list, there really isn't much there. Texas A&M, number 3 in the country this week, probably will be there after the weekend is over. They travel to Columbia, Missouri to take on Mizzou at a 3:30 kickoff.
Mm-hmm.
That could be a tough game for Texas A&M, but I think the Aggies are a little stronger than Missouri is. What do you guys think?
I think this is a very dangerous game for Texas A&M, especially with what they know is on the horizon after it.
Mm-hmm.
Missouri can stand up to about anybody physically. I don't know, man. This sort of reeks of the like the Miami SMU game of this week. We'll see.
Mm-hmm. I like Sly's breakdown of that one. I think this one could be a stumble game for A&M. It's going to be tight. I'm not touching it. I'm watching it.
Good afternoon of football so far. Um,
Mm-hmm.
we'll mention it because we mentioned it in the first half. John's favorite team, the Auburn Tigers, traveling to to Nashville to take on Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt reeling after they get beat by Texas.
They're
Take
mad.
the Commodores in this one. I think it
Yeah.
might be a low-scoring game, but Vandy should prevail.
Take the over. When was back to our conversation that we had in the first block? When was the last time we ever mentioned anything about an angry Vanderbilt team a week after a loss? This one could be beyond ugly, and get-in price is 234 at the newly renovated First Bank there in Nashville.
Which is
This
just
one this one could be.
beyond conceivable to me because of the fact that having covered Vanderbilt back in the late 1990s,
Mhm.
you were just as likely to see a stadium full of opposing team fans as you were to see more than a couple hundred people there for Vanderbilt. But not
It will
anymore.
be it will be reversed on Saturday, guaranteed, and it will be like I said. This could be an angry I still can't believe I'm saying an angry Vanderbilt team at home trying to extract revenge after losing in Austin to Texas.
What are the chances that Auburn is just broken right now and just go in and lay an egg and Vanderbilt runs it up on
Allow me to consult, Pat.
them?
It,
Auburn fans to be in Nashville next Saturday is for the White House final concert.
see, there you go. White Animal's final concert in Nashville next weekend.
Yes.
Somewhat in cahoots with this game, but is the Auburn football broken?
Yes.
See, you heard laughter.
Yeah.
Yeah, laughter, and we're horrible from the boss.
They've been in,
She's not even going. She's not going. She's been to Vandy. She's been to Vandy. She's seen the stadium while it was being renovated. She's not going. No one in her circle is going. That is where it is right now. Traditionally, these games are road trips. They're not going to Nashville, which
I
is a
wouldn't want to pay
four-hour drive.
$240 for a ticket to go see that game either.
No, but I mean, if you go through the athletic departments, traditionally it's less, and if you get in line, it's like face value for visitors and things like that. But get in through the secondary market, it's 234. Ain't nobody paying that.
It's going to go down during the week as Auburn fans want their tickets.
See, there you go. That is the expert opinion from the alumna of the group. Don't go.
On the flip side of that, I want to mention one of the hottest teams in college football right now, Kennesaw State. Something I thought I would never, ever say. They're traveling into Mexico State, 4 o'clock kickoff on ESPN Plus, but KSU bowl eligible after reeling off, 6 or 7 straight wins. Um, and
Jerry Mack better get coach of the year votes. That's all I'm saying.
their second year of being even eligible in the football bowl subdivision, and they're already bowl eligible. They couldn't be the first season because A, they weren't very good, and
Yeah.
B, because you're not allowed to be the first season.
Right, unless there are not enough teams and the waiver gets approved by the NCAA. I think that happened with either James Madison or Old Dominion a couple of years ago. Here's the key to
happened with Georgia Southern about a decade ago.
Here's the key to Kennesaw State. Kennesaw State should just play all of their home games in the midweek, because everyone that has gone to the Fraction to go play Kennesaw State at Kennesaw in weekday CUSA action has lost. I think that because this game is played on a Saturday, I think Kennesaw State is going to lose to New Mexico State. The only reason they're going to lose is because it's on a Saturday and not a Tuesday or a Wednesday. That is my scientific explanation for this. Get-in price, by the way, in Las Cruces, $30. But they're going to lose this one because it's on a Saturday. That's all I'm
If it wouldn't be a copyright violation, I would place Stevie Wonder's Superstition underneath that sentence.
It's ritual. It's not superstition. I think you're okay. But Jerry Mack better get Coach of the Year votes. That's all I'm saying.
Got a few rivalry games at night. One that 10, 15 years ago would have been a game that meant a lot to a lot of people, but this year, not so much. Florida State traveling to Death Valley, take on Clemson. Somebody's got to win, but God knows who it's going to be.
Thanks for the reminder of that one. Nothing like I think was it, Spencer Hall. I think Spencer Hall said that nothing like this game with both of these teams in a night game in the ACC to figure out which one is not going to be bowl eligible at the end of the evening.
Oh,
I mean, Florida State's 4-4, and Clemson's 3-5, I believe.
Yes.
So you're 1 inch closer to not being bowl eligible if you're Clemson if you lose this game. But I mean, seriously, Clemson has to win 3 of 4. And Florida State's in a slightly better position, having to win just 2 of 4 to be bowl eligible. I can't believe I'm saying that sentence. But we said the same thing about Vanderbilt going to Texas and being, that in the SEC. But this one, the ACC, if you have things to do like laundry, maybe you should do that instead of watching this one. Get-in price in Clemson, $57, up from the $20 get-in that it was for the Duke game, and we know what happened there.
Well, if Dion wants to get out of Boulder for a weekend, maybe he could go return punts for Florida State again in this game.
He might have eligibility. And by the way, the buyout for Dion's just under 34 as of December 1st.
Oof.
Yeah, his team isn't exactly lighting the world on fire these days either. Speaking of that, another game that would have meant a whole lot more a few years ago than it does now, LSU traveling to Bryant-Denny Stadium to take on Alabama. Primetime game on ABC. Had we had this discussion before the season kicked off, everybody would have been excited about it. Looking at it now, it's not a matter of who's going to win. It's just probably a matter of by how much.
And the discussions we had, Sly, before the season started were which coach is going to go first, and it would have been the coach in Tuscaloosa, not the coach in Baton Rouge, and it ended up being the inverse.
Yeah, and who will be traveling with the governor of Louisiana to that game? For whatever
all of the star chamber from the state will be traveling. It'll be a state sanctioned field trip, and they'll have the permission slips and everything. It'll be taxpayer funded, I'm sure.
LSU has just been in a tailspin. They're looking for a head coach. They're on the carousel already, but man, who's going to take that job after what the governor said?
Well, yeah, and then you have the way that Brian Kelly treated Garrett Nussmeier this season as an injured quarterback going into the season, and it's just the wheels have come off.
Basically, from what I've read, it's the way he treated pretty much everybody that played for him.
Yeah. I mean, you had the what was it, the Robert Saleh story from his time at Central Michigan. Did you guys see that?
No.
Okay, so Saleh, and who was the other assistant coach? Who the two Central Michigan assistant coaches? One was Saleh, and one was. Do you remember who the other assistant coach was? Okay, anyway, Robert Saleh was one of 2 young GAs under Brian Kelly at Central Michigan, and there was a holiday party at Brian Kelly's place, And so Kelly calls up Sala and the other assistant, and it's like, yeah, guys, I need you to come. I need you to come to the house for the holiday party. And as it turned out, it wasn't because they were invited to the holiday party of Brian Kelly at Brian Kelly's house. They were called to work the holiday party and park cars
Oh my
for
God.
Brian Kelly. Yeah. And that was the list. That was, Matt LaFleur, I think, was the other one. So the lesson that was learned about how you treat people by Robert Saleh and Matt LaFleur from their time as GAs at Central Michigan speaks volumes as to who Brian Kelly is and how LaFleur and Robert Saleh treat their assistant coaches. Yeah, they had to park cars on the way in and they had to get cars on the way out. They were told to show up for the holiday party and they were the valets.
I'm speechless
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I derail this one step further. If you have at LSU national championship or bust, and Penn State national championship or bust, plus
Mm-hmm.
all the traditional powers in there,
Mm-hmm.
how in the world are you going to ever keep a coach? I mean, or
Yeah.
hire one? I mean, it just seems I don't see the cycle stopping until that sort of mentality
Mm-hmm.
lessens to some degree. It makes zero sense.
No, until you have economic downturn and contracts and buyouts don't get to this astronomical level because of TV contracts and such, it's still going to be this way. It's going to be this way for a while.
Yeah, it's going to take a long time before you can break that circle.
Mm-hmm.
Very long time. One
Mm-hmm.
last game I want to mention because arguably it's the best game on TV that Saturday night.
Oh, Saturday
Navy
night, yeah.
traveling to Notre Dame.
Oh boy.
7:30 kickoff on NBC. That game sounds like it could be exciting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Blake Horvath versus Jeremiah Love on the ground. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of intriguing matchups there.
Mm-hmm. I'm digging it. Give me that one, and we're good to go. I'm just because I'm picking Navy.
Is there any way the powers that be let Notre Dame get a third loss?
No, or
Yeah,
even if they did, they'd still get the wild card to get in.
yeah.
Uh, Only because this game's in South Bend do I think that Notre Dame will get the win, but I think this could very well be the most exciting game of the day.
Somebody didn't tell Paul Johnson that one year.
Oof.
Well,
Just
history is
saying.
yes, history is history.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about what's happening today, so that's the game. That's my prediction, and I'm sticking to it. Now we get to everybody's favorite segment. It's the early version of college football on a budget, where we tell you games that you could get into for roughly the price of a cold soft drink of your choice.
Yep.
We'll start off on Tuesday. We mentioned it briefly at the very beginning of this segment. Miami of Ohio traveling to Peden Stadium in Athens. Get in price for
Athens.
that one, a whole $6.
We've been there already this year. If you haven't been, go. If you have, share the experience with others. So it's a conditional raising of the glass if you've been or if you haven't.
If you're in range, it's a great way to spend a Tuesday night.
Mm-hmm.
On Wednesday night, this game barely qualifies, but we'll go ahead and add it to the board. Kent State at Ball State. You're getting price at Schumann Stadium in Muncie, Indiana right now, $11 for a game on the U.
I don't think we've been there this year, so I'll go ahead and give it a ding just because it's a Wednesday night in Muncie, because we get to say Muncie and Schumann in the same sentence. So ding.
Yeah, what else are you going to do in Muncie on a Wednesday night?
Check.
It's not every day you can say those things in tandem.
Yes.
Little bit of a disappointment here, although not really when you think about the teams involved. Washington traveling to Camp Randall Stadium in Madison, Wisconsin, Saturday on a to-be-determined game. You're getting price for that one, a whole $10.
Ding, ding, ding. Jump around with the price of admission, period. Then you
Yeah.
can leave.
You won't have a problem getting a seat, it sounds like.
Yeah, awesome football atmosphere, despite what the team is doing at the moment, which I'm enjoying, by the way.
He might have a vested interest there.
Yeah.
A 12 o'clock kickoff on the ACC network. SMU traveling to Chestnut Hill to take on Boston College. You're getting priced for that game at Alumni Stadium, a whole $8. This is the time of year,
Dang.
if you're going to go to Chestnut Hill, you go.
Absolutely. Dang.
I don't know if the Bruins are at home that night, but if they are, it might doubling up would be a hell of a day there.
Absolutely true.
Could definitely have a good sports day with a whole lot going on. Going on down the list, Tulsa traveling to Flagler Credit Union Stadium in Boca Raton, Florida to take on Florida
Okay.
Atlantic. You're getting price there, $8.
Dang. If you haven't been to Boca once again, go this year. Go to Boca. It's Boca in November, and you get to see the growth of the Tulsa program as a part of the Land family tree. So ding on a couple of fronts.
Yeah, you have a competing game not too far down the highway because Syracuse traveling to Miami to take on the Hurricanes at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami Gardens. You're getting price for that game on ESPN, a whole $9.
Nope, not going.
I don't know if I would pay to see Syracuse's offense at this point, but yeah, that will be a horrible game and not in a very fun environment there in Miramar or whatever town they're calling it these days.
Miami Gardens or
Yeah,
whatever it
it
is.
used to be Miramar, now it's Miami Gardens.
Okay.
Well, it's neither Miami nor a garden, and the low down dirty cheaters aren't getting my money. So there you go.
Hard Rock Stadium does look good on TV, but I think I'll save that for a Dolphins game.
Smart play.
And your last game on the board, Sam Houston traveling to Oregon State at 10 o'clock kickoff on the CW. You're getting priced $10 at Reser Stadium in Corvallis, Oregon.
Yeah, I mean, once again, we sit there and we talk about Reser as one of those environments. If you haven't been, go. Once again, this time of year, go for it. So it is a conditional ding. If you've been, share the experience with somebody else. Tell them to go. If you haven't, go, because where else can you see Bearcat spelled with a K?
And you get to see the team that's leading the Pac-12 at the moment.
Correct.
The two-pack?
Yeah.
Yes, that is true. That
Yeah.
is true. All right, so rapid fire in 1AA FCS. Virginia Lynchburg at Sacred Heart, noon kick, $11, Campus Field in Fairfield, Connecticut.
Fairfield's probably nice this time of year. Fall November in Connecticut doesn't sound so bad.
Yeah, agreed.
Villanova at Towson, 1 o'clock, $8 get-in price at Johnny Unitas Stadium in Towson, Maryland.
No, not for me. Not really chomping at the bit to go see anything there, and there's not anything else to see while you're there.
Well, Guinness has a brewery there in Baltimore. I mean, if that's of any interest, that might be something to throw in during the
That
day.
could change that could change my thoughts on this very quickly.
Yes. And football not on a budget to wrap things up in 1AA. 6 o'clock kick for a first-year program in Edinburgh, Texas, who was having a good run until they lost to Stephen F. Austin this past weekend.
The Bionic Man.
Close. Nichols State at UT Rio Grande Valley at Robert and Janet Vacker Stadium in Edinburgh, Texas. Get-in price $221.
Seriously?
Seriously. UTRGV has had a really good first year in 1AA. They did get kind of brought down to earth a little bit by Stephen F. Austin. You could say they were lumberjacked. But yeah, $221 get-in for a very small stadium in Edinburgh, Texas. I mean, that's cool and everything. But that also gives me an end to talk about before we go. 4 teams in the top 8 in 1AA were knocked off this past week. It was North Dakota losing at South Dakota at number 8. South Dakota State still reeling off Dakota Marker, loses to 2-6 Indiana State. They were T4. Cal Davis loses to 2-6 Idaho State at number 6. Tarleton State ranked number 2 loses at Abilene Christian. So the FCS rankings just went that way.
Yeah, arguably that's what makes that level sometimes much more fun than games that we know are going to happen in the big boy.
But not at $221 in Edinburgh, Texas.
Yeah, and bonus money if you can actually find it on a map.
All the way down toward Brownsville.
Guys, really, we've covered just about everything there on the ground in terms of what happens in college football. This week, we get our first college football playoff rankings. What do you think, really quickly here in 30 seconds or less?
Woo, Sly.
Next week, I'll likely be in Chicago for a remote broadcast, and there's a
Ooh.
strong likelihood it'll be after an all-nighter. So we'll see how that goes.
So it'll be the end of your day, is what you're saying.
Correct.
Yeah, look at
Nice.
Look at Ohio State. Look at Indiana being your top two. Texas A&M probably right behind them. And then your free-for-all begins. Probably, I would guess, Alabama at 4. And then some combination of Georgia and a whole bunch of other teams behind them.
Sly, if you did your remote from Martin Stadium on the lake at Northwestern, you would be the man.
I'll see what condition I'm in at that point.
That translates into he'll be in DeKalb at the University of Northern Illinois.
Oof.
Again, not a horrible thing.
No. Say goodnight, Jerry.
Yeah, time to say goodbye to all our family. MICKEYMOUSE. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Have a great week. We will catch up to you with the midweek episode where we talk to some of the most important people in college football. And we'll be back again next week with the review where we talk about the week that was and the week that is ahead. Thanks for tuning in. Bye-bye.
Since I'm not Marty, please like and subscribe and like us on all of our social media platforms.